The veterinarian's hands froze mid-examination. His eyes widened as he stared at the newborn puppies, their tiny bodies still damp and trembling. Behind him, his assistant gasped, dropping the towel she'd been holding. Something was wrong. Terribly wrong. These weren't normal puppies. But let me take you back to where this all started. The rain hadn't stopped for 3 days straight. Rebecca Chen pressed her forehead against the cold kitchen window of her modest home in rural Vermont, watching sheets of water blur the forest edge beyond her property. The weather forecast called it an atmospheric river, but to Rebecca, it just felt like the sky had forgotten how to stop crying. She'd moved here 6 months ago, seeking peace after a messy divorce, trading her Boston apartment for 10 acres of pine trees and silence. The isolation had been exactly what she needed, until tonight, a sound cut through the drumming rain. A whimper, soft, pained, desperate. Rebecca turned from the window, listening. There it was again, coming from the mudroom where her dog, Bella, had been resting. She'd found Bella 8 months earlier, limping along Route 100 with a badly infected paw. The local vet had estimated the dog was maybe 3 years old, some kind of mixed breed with thick russet fur and intelligent amber eyes. After nursing her back to health, Rebecca couldn't bear to take her to the shelter. Bella had become her companion, her reason to get up in the morning, her anchor in the solitude. But lately, Bella had been acting strange. Her appetite had increased dramatically. Her belly had begun to swell. Rebecca had assumed she was just feeding her too much, maybe not exercising her enough. The nearest vet was 40 minutes away, and with her work-from-home schedule stretched thin, she'd kept putting off the checkup. Besides, Bella seemed happy, active, her usual self, until 3 hours ago. Rebecca rushed into the mudroom. Bella lay on her side on the dog bed, panting heavily. Her eyes found Rebecca's, and in them was something Rebecca had never seen before. Fear, pure animal fear. The dog's belly was enormous, grotesquely distended, her sides heaving with each labored breath. "Oh God, Bella. What's happening, baby?" Bella whimpered again, her whole body tensing. Rebecca dropped to her knees, hands hovering over the dog, unsure where to touch, how to help. She'd never seen Bella like this. The swelling wasn't normal. It couldn't just be weight gain. Something was happening inside her dog, something urgent and frightening. She grabbed her phone with shaking hands and dialed the emergency vet clinic in Burlington. The phone rang once, twice, 3 times. "Green Mountain Animal Hospital. This is Dr. Patterson. My dog, I think something's really wrong. Her stomach is huge and she's panting and whimpering, and I don't know what to do." The words tumbled out in a rush. "Okay, slow down. How long has this been happening? Just tonight? I mean, she's been getting bigger for a couple weeks, but tonight she's in pain. Real pain. Is she spayed?" Rebecca's stomach dropped. The question she'd been avoiding. I don't know. I found her on the road. I took her to a vet once, but they never said anything about. She didn't seem. "Ma'am, it sounds like your dog might be in labor." Labor? The word hit Rebecca like cold water. Bella was pregnant. All this time, she'd been pregnant, and Rebecca hadn't even considered it. How had she been so blind? "How far are you from Burlington?" Dr. Patterson's voice was calm but urgent. 40 minutes. Maybe 35 in this weather if I push it. "You need to get here now. If she's having complications, we need to see her immediately. Can you safely transport her?" Rebecca looked at Bella, at her swollen sides, her frightened eyes. Yes. I'll be there as fast as I can." She hung up and ran to get her car keys. The old Subaru was already running by the time she'd wrapped Bella in blankets and half-dragged the dog to the back seat. Bella was heavy, heavier than Rebecca remembered, and she barely managed to get her settled before jumping into the driver's seat. The windshield wipers couldn't keep up with the rain. Rebecca's knuckles were white on the steering wheel as she navigated the winding mountain roads, far exceeding the safe speed limit. Every few seconds, she glanced in the rearview mirror at Bella, who lay panting in the back. Her eyes squeezed shut. "Hold on, girl. We're almost there. Just hold on." The drive felt endless. Every turn revealed another stretch of dark road, another wall of rain. Rebecca's heart hammered in her chest. She should have known. Should have taken Bella to the vet weeks ago when the swelling started. What if something happened to her dog? What if she lost her? Bella let out a sharp yelp. No, no, no. Not yet, Bella. Please, not yet. Finally, after what felt like hours but was only 32 minutes, the lights of the animal hospital appeared through the rain. Rebecca barely stopped the car before jumping out and running to the back door. Dr. Patterson and a young assistant were already rushing out with a gurney. "Help me get her out!" Rebecca shouted over the rain. Together, they lifted Bella onto the gurney. The dog's breathing was ragged now, her body shaking. They rushed her through the sliding glass doors into the bright, sterile warmth of the clinic. "When did the symptoms start?" Dr. Patterson asked as they wheeled Bella down a hallway. "A few hours ago. But she's been getting bigger for maybe 2-3 weeks. And you didn't know she was pregnant?" "I had no idea. I found her abandoned. I just thought she was gaining weight. I didn't know she could. I mean, I never saw her with any other dogs." They burst through double doors into an examination room. The assistant, a young woman with her hair pulled back in a tight ponytail, began prepping equipment, while Dr. Patterson gently examined Bella's swollen abdomen. He was in his 50s, with gray hair and steady hands that moved with practiced efficiency. "She's definitely in labor," he confirmed. "But something doesn't feel right." Rebecca's heart sank. "What do you mean?" Dr. Patterson's brow furrowed as he palpated Bella's belly. "The size is unusual. The positioning seems off. And these contractions, they're not progressing normally." He looked up at his assistant. "Get me the ultrasound." The assistant wheeled over a machine, and Dr. Patterson squeezed gel onto Bella's stomach. The ultrasound wand moved across her fur, and images flickered on the screen. Rebecca couldn't make sense of what she was seeing, just dark shapes and movement. Dr. Patterson leaned closer to the screen. His expression changed. The professional calm slipped for just a moment, replaced by something Rebecca couldn't quite read. Confusion? Concern? Concern? "What is it?" Rebecca asked. "What's wrong?" "There are definitely puppies. Multiple puppies. But," he moved the wand again, studying the screen intently. "The fetal size is larger than normal. Significantly larger. And the skeletal structure." He trailed off, then shook his head. "Let's get her into delivery. We need to help her through this." They moved quickly, transferring Bella to a padded table with warming lights. The assistant brought towels, scissors, suction equipment. Dr. Patterson scrubbed his hands at the sink, talking in a low voice to his assistant. Rebecca caught fragments. "Never seen. Abnormal development. Might need assistance." Bella's eyes found Rebecca's across the room. Rebecca moved to her head, kneeling down, stroking the soft fur behind her ears. "You're going to be okay, girl. The doctor's going to help you. Everything's going to be okay." But she wasn't sure she believed it. Another contraction rippled through Bella's body. She let out a low, guttural sound that made Rebecca's throat tighten. Dr. Patterson positioned himself at Bella's hindquarters, hands ready. "Here we go," he said. First puppy is crowning. Minutes stretched out. The room filled with the sounds of Bella's labored breathing, the quiet instructions between doctor and assistant, the rustle of towels and equipment. Then, finally, a tiny cry. "Got one," Dr. Patterson said, but his tone was odd. "Careful." He lifted the puppy, a small dark form, and began cleaning it with a towel. But instead of handing it to the assistant or placing it near Bella, he paused, stared. "What's wrong?" Rebecca asked, standing. Dr. Patterson didn't answer immediately. He held the puppy under the warming light, examining it closely. The assistant moved closer, looking over his shoulder. "Oh my God," she whispered. "What?" Rebecca's voice rose. "What is it?" The puppy made a small sound, and Rebecca saw it clearly for the first time. It was bigger than any newborn puppy she'd ever seen, almost twice the size she'd expected. But that wasn't what made her breath catch. It was the puppy's face. The snout was shorter, more blunt than a typical dog. And its eyes, they were already open. Bright, aware, focused. Newborn puppies weren't supposed to open their eyes for weeks. That's not possible, the assistant breathed. Dr. Patterson set the puppy down in a warming box and returned his attention to Bella. We have more coming. Stay focused. Over the next 20 minutes, 5 more puppies were delivered, each one identical to the first. Oversized, eyes open from birth, muscular in a way that seemed wrong for newborns. Their cries were different too, deeper, more resonant, almost like growls. Rebecca watched in stunned silence as Dr. Patterson and his assistant worked. When the 6th puppy was finally delivered, and Bella's contractions stopped, Dr. 7. Patterson stepped back, peeling off his gloves. He stared at the 6 puppies, now squirming in their warming box, and then turned to his assistant. Jennifer, I need you to go wait in the lobby. Jennifer's eyes widened. But Dr. Patterson, I should help clean up. Now, please. His voice was firm but not unkind. Jennifer glanced at Rebecca, then at the puppies, and left the room. The door clicked shut behind her. The silence that followed was heavy. What's going on? Rebecca asked. Her voice sounded small. Why did you send her away? Dr. Patterson walked to the sink and washed his hands slowly, methodically. When he finally turned back to face Rebecca, his expression was grave. Rebecca, I need you to tell me everything you know about where you found Bella. Every detail. I told you. She was on Route 100, limping. That was 8 months ago. Why? Where exactly on Route 100? Near the National Forest boundary. Why does it matter? Doctor. Patterson moved to the warming box and gently picked up one of the puppies. It squirmed in his hands, its eyes tracking his movements with an intelligence that seemed far too advanced. These aren't normal puppies, he said quietly. What do you mean they're not normal? They're right here. They're alive. What are you talking about? Look at them, Rebecca. Really look. He held the puppy up to the light. The cranial structure, the muscle development, the eyes being open at birth, the size. And look at this. He gently opened the puppy's mouth. Rebecca leaned in and saw what he meant. Tiny teeth. Sharp, pointed teeth. Not the smooth gums of a newborn, but actual teeth. Already breaking through. Puppies don't have teeth at birth, Dr. Patterson said. They don't open their eyes for 7 to 14 days. They certainly aren't this muscular or coordinated. He set the puppy back down. Rebecca, I think Bella mated with something in that forest, something that wasn't a domestic dog. Rebecca's mind reeled. What are you saying? A wolf? We don't have wolves in Vermont. Not wolves. At least, not the gray wolves that used to be here. He pulled out his phone and began typing. But there have been reports. Sightings. Animals that don't quite match any known species in the area. He showed her his phone screen. It displayed a wildlife forum with blurry photos of large canine-like creatures. I need to run some tests. DNA tests. Because if these puppies are what I think they are, this is bigger than either of us. You're scaring me. I don't mean to. But I need your permission to take blood samples from the puppies. And I need you to understand that depending on what we find, I may have to report this to wildlife authorities. Rebecca looked at Bella, who was now resting peacefully, exhausted from the delivery, then at the 6 strange puppies nursing at her side. Do what you need to do, she said. Doctor. Patterson worked quickly, taking small blood samples from each puppy with practiced efficiency. The puppies barely seemed to notice, their focus entirely on nursing. He labeled each vial carefully, then pulled out his phone again. I have a contact at the University of Vermont's Wildlife Genetics Lab. They owe me a favor. I'm going to mark this as urgent. He typed rapidly. With any luck, we'll have preliminary results by tomorrow afternoon. Tomorrow? Can't we know sooner? DNA sequencing takes time, even with priority processing. For now, Bella and the puppies need rest. You do too. There's a cot in the recovery room if you want to stay with her. Rebecca nodded numbly. She couldn't have left even if she'd wanted to. The rest of the night passed in a blur. Rebecca dozed fitfully on the cot, waking every hour to check on Bella and the puppies. They all seemed healthy. Despite their unusual appearance, the puppies nursed vigorously, their small bodies warm and squirming against Bella's belly. Bella herself seemed surprisingly peaceful, licking her babies clean, nuzzling them gently. When morning light filtered through the clinic windows, Dr. Patterson appeared with coffee and granola bars. "How are they?" he asked. "Sleeping." "All of them." Rebecca took the coffee gratefully. "Have you heard anything?" "Not yet, but I've been doing some research." He pulled up a chair, his expression serious. "Rebecca, there's something called the eastern coyote that's been expanding its range into Vermont over the past few decades. But recent studies suggest these coyotes are actually hybrids, carrying DNA from wolves, western coyotes, and domestic dogs. So you think Bella mated with a coyote? It's possible. But these puppies, they're too large, too developed. I think we're dealing with something different. There have been unconfirmed reports of a larger canid in the northeast wilderness. Some people call them coy wolves, but that's probably not scientifically accurate. Whatever it is, it's bigger than a coyote, more wolf-like, but genetically distinct. How is that possible? I thought wolves were extinct here. They are. The gray wolf was extirpated from Vermont in the late 1800s. But nature has a way of filling ecological niches. If there's prey and habitat, something will move in to take advantage of it. And if that something can interbreed with domestic dogs, he gestured at the puppies. Well, you get situations like this. Rebecca's phone buzzed, then Dr. Patterson's. They both looked at their screens. It was an email from the genetics lab. Subject: urgent. DNA. Results. Dr. Patterson opened it first. Rebecca watched his face go pale as he read. He scrolled down, his eyes widening with each line. "What?" Rebecca demanded. "What does it say?" He handed her the phone. Rebecca scanned the email, trying to make sense of the scientific terminology. Subject specimens show genetic markers consistent with Canis lupus, Lycaon, eastern wolf, admixture. Percentage of wolf DNA: 62%. Domestic dog DNA: 38%. This is highly unusual and requires immediate follow-up. Please contact us regarding specimen collection and further study. These animals may be of significant conservation and scientific interest. 62% wolf, Rebecca whispered. But you said there are no wolves here. No gray wolves. But the eastern wolf, that's different. It's a critically endangered species. Most scientists thought they only existed in small pockets of eastern Canada now. But if there's a population here, in Vermont, that's... He ran his hand through his hair. Rebecca, this is huge. This could be the scientific discovery of the decade. A cold dread settled in Rebecca's stomach. What happens now? I have to report this. I'm legally obligated. These animals are protected under endangered species laws. The Fish and Wildlife Service will need to be notified. No. Rebecca stood abruptly. No. You can't. They'll take Bella. They'll take the puppies. Rebecca, she's my dog. I saved her. These are her babies. They're not just her babies. They're part of an endangered species. Do you understand what that means? If there are eastern wolves breeding in Vermont, it could mean the species is recovering. These puppies could be crucial for conservation efforts. I don't care about conservation efforts. I care about my dog. Before Dr. Patterson could respond, the clinic door opened. Jennifer, the assistant, poked her head in. Dr. Patterson? There are 2 people here to see you. They say they're from Fish and Wildlife. Rebecca and Dr. Patterson exchanged looks. I didn't call them yet, he said quietly. I swear. They walked to the lobby. 2 people stood there, a man and a woman, both wearing official-looking jackets with Fish and Wildlife Service patches. The man was tall and broad-shouldered, with a weathered face that spoke of years spent outdoors. The woman was shorter, younger, with sharp eyes that seemed to miss nothing. Dr. Patterson? The man said, extending his hand. I'm Agent Marcus Webb. This is Agent Lisa Chen. We received an alert from the University of Vermont Genetics Lab about some unusual DNA results from samples you submitted. That was fast, Dr. Patterson said, shaking his hand cautiously. We have protocols in place for exactly this kind of situation, Agent Chen said. Her eyes moved to Rebecca. And you must be the owner of the mother dog? Rebecca nodded, not trusting her voice. Miss Chen, we're going to need to ask you some questions about where and when you found your dog. And we're going to need to see the puppies. You can't just come in here. And Rebecca started. But Dr. Patterson put a hand on her arm. They have jurisdiction, he said quietly. These animals fall under federal protection laws. Agent Webb's expression softened slightly. Miss Chen, we're not here to cause trouble. But you have to understand the significance of what's happened here. If your dog mated with an eastern wolf, those puppies represent a critical genetic link. We need to study them, document them, and potentially use them in conservation breeding programs. You want to take them away, Rebecca said flatly. We want to understand them. Agent Chen corrected. And yes, eventually, they may need to be relocated to a facility better equipped to handle wolf-dog hybrids. These aren't domestic animals. As they grow, they'll develop behaviors and needs that you won't be able to meet in a home environment. Can I see them? Agent Webb asked. The puppies? Rebecca wanted to say no. Wanted to grab Bella and the puppies and run. But she knew it was futile. These were federal agents. They had the law on their side. Follow me, Dr. Patterson said. They walked back to the recovery room. Bella lifted her head as they entered, her eyes wary as the strangers approached. The puppies were nursing, their small bodies pressed against their mother's belly. Agent Webb knelt down slowly, his movements careful and non-threatening. He studied the puppies for a long moment, then let out a low whistle. Unbelievable, he murmured. Lisa, look at the cranial structure, the paw size. These are definitely hybrid pups. Agent Chen pulled out a camera and began taking photos. We'll need to examine them more thoroughly. Take measurements. Additional DNA samples. They're only a day old, Rebecca protested. Can't this wait? Time is critical, Agent Webb said, standing. We need to document their development from as early as possible. Dr. Patterson, do you have facilities where we can keep the mother and pups under observation for the next few weeks? We have a large recovery kennel. It's not ideal for long-term. But for a few weeks. Yes, good. We'll set up equipment for monitoring and documentation. Miss Chen, I know this is difficult, but you need to understand that what's happening here is extraordinary. These puppies could help us understand how domestic dogs and wild wolves interact, how hybridization affects behavior and genetics. They could be the key to saving an endangered species. Rebecca looked at Bella, at her tired eyes and protective posture around her babies. What happens to them? To her? Agent Chen exchanged a glance with her partner. That depends on several factors. The puppies will need to be assessed as they grow. If they show more wolf-like behaviors, they'll need to go to a wildlife sanctuary or conservation center. If they're more dog-like, there might be other options. And Bella, the mother can stay with them until they're weaned. After that, Agent Webb paused. After that, she can return to you, if that's what you want. She's still a domestic dog, legally speaking. If that's what I want? Rebecca's voice cracked. She's my dog. Of course that's what I want. Over the following 3 weeks, the clinic became something between a research station and a zoo. Agent Webb and Agent Chen set up cameras to monitor the puppies 24/7. Scientists from the university came and went, taking samples, doing examinations, making notes. Rebecca was allowed to visit daily, but she could feel Bella slipping away from her, becoming more protective, more wild, with each passing day. The puppies grew at an astonishing rate. By week 2, they were twice the size of normal puppies their age. Their eyes, already open at birth, showed an intelligence that was almost unsettling. They played with each other, but their play was rougher, more aggressive than domestic puppies. Their howls at night sounded nothing like puppy whines. They sounded like wolves. On the 18th day, Dr. Patterson called Rebecca into his office. Agent Webb and Agent Chen were there, along with a woman Rebecca didn't recognize. "Rebecca, this is Dr. Sarah Martinez from the Northeast Wolf Recovery Project," Dr. Patterson said. "She has something to tell you." Dr. Martinez leaned forward, her eyes kind but serious. "Miss Chen, the DNA tests have been conclusive. These puppies are 62% Eastern Wolf, 38% domestic dog. The father was almost certainly a wild Eastern Wolf. Based on where you found Bella, we believe there may be a small population of these wolves living in the Green Mountain National Forest. This is the first confirmed evidence of Eastern wolves in Vermont in over a century." Rebecca's throat tightened. "What does that mean for Bella and her puppies?" "The puppies can't be kept as pets. They're too wild. And as they mature, they'll become dangerous. They need to be in a controlled environment where they can be studied and, hopefully, used in conservation breeding programs." Dr. Martinez softened her voice. "But there's another option we'd like to propose." Agent Webb pulled out a map and spread it on the desk. He pointed to a section of the Green Mountain National Forest. "This area is remote, heavily forested, with minimal human interaction. We believe this is where the wolf population is living. We'd like to release Bella and the puppies there." "Release them?" Rebecca stared at the map. "Into the wild. With monitoring," Agent Chen added quickly. "We'll fit them with GPS collars, track their movements, see if they integrate with the existing wolf population. This could be a unique opportunity to study how domestic dogs and wolves interact in a natural setting. But Bella, she's not wild. She's lived with me. She's domesticated. She was wild before you found her, Doctor," Martinez said gently. "Or at least, she was living in the forest. And these past few weeks, we've watched her behaviors shift. She's becoming more protective, more territorial. She's responding to her puppy's wild instincts. Rebecca, I think Bella wants to go back to the forest. I think she belongs there." Rebecca felt tears burning in her eyes. "So I lose her. After everything, you gave her a chance when no one else would," Dr. Patterson said quietly. "You saved her life, and now you're giving her the choice to live the life she was meant for." The next day, just before dawn, they drove deep into the Green Mountain National Forest. Rebecca sat in the back of the Fish and Wildlife truck, Bella beside her, the 6 puppies in a large crate. They'd both been fitted with GPS collars, thin and lightweight but supposedly strong enough to last years. When they reached a clearing beside a small stream, Agent Webb stopped the truck. "This is it," he said. "This is where we've seen evidence of the wolf pack. Fresh tracks. Den sites. This is their territory." They opened the crate and let the puppies out first. They tumbled into the grass, sniffing, exploring, their movements more coordinated than any month-old puppies should be. Bella jumped down after them, immediately herding them together with gentle nips and nudges. Rebecca knelt in the grass, and Bella came to her. For a moment, it was just the two of them again, like all those quiet mornings in her kitchen. Rebecca wrapped her arms around Bella's neck, breathing in her familiar scent. "You be safe. Okay?" she whispered. "You take care of your babies. And yourself." Bella licked her face once, then pulled away. She looked back at her puppies, then at the forest, then back at Rebecca. In her amber eyes, Rebecca saw something that made her throat close up. Not sadness, understanding, maybe even gratitude. Then Bella turned and trotted toward the tree line, her puppies scrambling after her. At the edge of the forest, she paused. "Look back one more time." Rebecca raised her hand in a wave. Bella disappeared into the trees. They stood there for a long time, watching the forest, waiting. Then, as the sun rose over the mountains, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold, a sound echoed through the valley. A howl. Long, haunting, wild. Then another, and another. The puppies, joining their mother. And beneath their voices, deeper and more resonant, the answering calls of other wolves. The pack, welcoming them home. Agent Chen checked her tablet, monitoring the GPS signals. "They're moving northeast," toward the area where we've recorded the most wolf activity. Will they be okay? Rebecca asked, her voice barely audible. We'll monitor them closely, Agent Webb assured her. But honestly, I think they're exactly where they need to be. Doctor, Martinez put a hand on Rebecca's shoulder. What you did was incredible. You gave an endangered species a chance at survival. Those puppies, they'll grow up wild, and maybe they'll have puppies of their own someday. You've given them a future. Rebecca nodded, unable to speak. They drove her back to her car in silence. That night, alone in her house, Rebecca looked at Bella's empty dog bed. The silence was overwhelming, but when she closed her eyes, she could still hear it. That howl, wild and free and alive. 3 months later, Rebecca received an email from Dr. Martinez. There were photos attached. Images captured by motion-activated cameras deep in the forest. Bella, healthy and strong, running with a pack of 6 adult wolves, and beside her, her 6 puppies, now adolescents, their coats thick and beautiful, their movements confident and wild. At the bottom of the email, Dr. Martinez had written, "They're thriving. The pack has accepted them completely. And Rebecca, you should know. We've documented 4 new wolf pups born this spring. The bloodline continues. Thank you for giving them this chance." Rebecca saved the photos, printed them, put them on her wall. Sometimes on quiet nights, she would drive out to the forest edge and park her car. She would roll down the windows and listen. And sometimes, if the wind was right, she could hear them, the wolves, Bella, singing to the moon, and she would smile, knowing that her dog, her faithful companion, was exactly where she was always meant to be, home